Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do. Tame the beard a little. All right. Yeah, I got a haircut. In defiance of the government, I got a haircut. I feel as happy as a New England patriot drinking that imported smuggled Dutch tea that didn't have King George's stamp on it. It sure was nice to get a haircut. I tell you, I feel better. It's kind of looking shaggy and feeling like a hippie. I'm not one of those guys that believes every man shouldn't have hair touching his ears or down the back of his collar, but I used to have a mullet. Back in the day, I had a mullet that would make George Armstrong Custer jealous. I mean, my hair naturally curled when it got long, and my mullet, when my hair gets long, it turns blonde. It's actually kind of dark brown, believe it or not. But when it gets long, it'll turn blonde. I mean, blonde. I don't have to highlight it. It just does that. And anyhow, I had a sweet mullet, and but I even had a mohawk as a kid one time, and that's a whole nother story. But anyways, I had a mullet, and I liked the mullet. You know, the whole business on the front, party in the back thing. But after doing 6 years in the Air Guard and having that, that GI haircut, I got to where I just couldn't stand to have hair flipping out around my ears or sticking out of my hat. It made me feel like Bozo the Clown. And I couldn't have it bothering me on the neck. I've always had to have it tapered, on the edges. So, yeah, I got me an illegal haircut, but, man, it sure felt good. And, no, I wouldn't give away my sources even under threat of torture. But sure was good to exercise my freedom and get a Corona cut. And a pretty good haircut, too. I almost have evangelist hair, almost. Let's see who's here. Six-shooter Texan, thanks for stopping by. Georgia Boy 44, good to see you, Richard. Roy Hubbard, good to see you, too. One-eyed hippie, this is Kevin R. I'm here. Awesome, Kevin. Good. Got a lot of my close friends in here already. I was going to tell you a bear story. If you have any questions, anything, hit me up now. But while you're thinking of a good question, I'm going to tell you a bear story. See this guy here? Look at that. Wow. That's like a reflection of a reflection of a reflection. Here, let me tilt it a little bit. This bear here, I'm going to tell you about when I killed this bear. That was a younger me. That was back in my prime. I was a stud back in the day. For a fat guy, I was a stud. This is the bear. Actually, I've got his skull here in my office. This is the bear's skull. You can tell there could easily have ate me. Even at my heavyweight, he could have easily eaten me. But yeah, that's my bear's skull. I'll tell you the story about this. This is a funny story. So me and my buddy Ryan, he's the guy, if you watch the the live scope crappie video, I filmed that with Ryan. He was the best man at my wedding almost 25 years ago. Anyways, he and I were bear hunting together. This is probably around 2001, 2003, somewhere in there. So we went bear hunting in Arkansas, and it just kind of recently become legal. So we had out a couple bear baits. He was on one side of the mountain, and I was on the other. This is on some family land, and we were hunting in the Ouachita Mountains, and it was like 20 minutes before dark, okay? And so I look over. I got a crossbow, by the way. It's the opening day of bear season. And I look over to my left, and I see a bear walking through the woods. And he's not a big bear, but I've never killed a bear. So I see him walking through the woods, and I said, hey, there's a bear right there. So the crossbow, I was sitting in my stand, and the crossbow's, kind of just laying down here in my lap. I had it hanging, but I got it down to be ready. So it walked, and there was a trail that came from the left right to the bait, and the bait is 15 yards in front of me. But he wanted to circle and get downwind, so he went all the way behind me. So I got a tree behind me. I'm about 30 foot off the ground. I got this bear behind me, and I'm watching, and the trail comes behind my tree, and it forks. One side goes to the bait, and this side circles and goes to the bait. It forks around the tree I'm in. So now I'm sitting here going, okay, he's behind me, and I'm trying to look over my shoulder. I'm trying not to get seen. I'm doing a lot of this right here and this right here. Well, all of a sudden, I look over, and like 10 yards from me is a bear that's twice the size of the one behind me. And I you don't hear bears. I mean, they're just quiet. They got those big, hairy, padded feet, and then they walk and they step in the same footprint. A bear trail is just a bunch of impressions in the leaves. So this bear's 10 yards from me, but he's here. And now with a crossbow, I can't stand up. I mean, they're too close for me to try to stand up and move around. So the big bear and the little bear are having stare down, who's gonna move first. And I'm sitting here on my butt with one behind me and one to my weak side, and I can't do nothing. So then they kind of ease up, and they're feeling each other out, and they decide they're going to be friends and they're not going to fight. So they start sniffing around, and they're sniffing around. And anyways, the smaller bear takes this side. Now I want the bigger bear. I can see the bigger bear. He's 5 yards from me, but he's where I can't turn and shoot. The little bear starts smelling my steps, where I'd screwed in my steps, to come up the tree. I already had them in there, but he's smelling where I walked up, and he's got his paws on the tree, looking up the tree at me. And I'm thinking, okay, do I shoot him in self-defense, or do I wait for the bigger one to get out front? Well, the bigger one goes up a little bit, and a pear had rolled out of the bait at some point during the day and was kind of right beside my tree. That bigger bear started eating that pear. And if you've ever heard like a horse eat a carrot, they just clomp, 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 clomp. This big bear is just crunching this pear, right at the base of the tree. And I'm trying to think, how do I twist and turn without squeaking or making any noise in the stand? And I said, just wait. They're here to eat. They don't know I'm here. Well, maybe this one knows I'm here, but he doesn't seem to care. So the bigger one starts eating. Well, the little one lets go, and he circles back around the tree, and he starts to move to the bait. Well, when he does, the bigger one kind of wolfs at him like, I'm the boss here. And the bigger one starts to the bait and stops, and it's almost straight down. My crossbow is literally resting on the end of my platform where my feet go. And I look through my peep sight. It's getting dark now. And I look through my peep sight, and all I can see is bear. I mean, I'm shooting 30 feet. It's 4 foot from the bait, or 4 yards from the base of the tree. So I sat there and I thought, okay, I looked through the peep sight again, and it's hard to tell where I'm at. I'm just seeing so much. So I said, okay, about where I'm shooting straight down. He's going straight away from me. I said, you see his head, you see his neck, where his body starts to fill out through the shoulders. I said, center up on those shoulders and let it go. So I centered up on those shoulders and I let it go. And he turned around and bit the hole where the arrow went in. And I mean, he let out a roar, a bark, a wolf. I don't know what you call it. But he turned loose, and that little bear, I think he thought the little bear bit him. And I think the little bear thought he was fixing to get mauled by the big bear. So that little bear spun around and shot, just screaming. I never looked back, but I heard him hit the barbed wire fence about 60 yards behind me. And it was just like barbed wire breaking. Well, this one let out the roar, kind of spun around a couple times, biting where the arrow went in his back, kind of rolling, trying to bite at it, and then ran straight in front of me. And I heard a crash. And then I heard a moan. So I'm like, well, I need to give it some time to die, but it's getting dark, and I need to get out of here. And what do you do, And I'm sitting there. Back then, I didn't even own a pistol. I didn't know. No, I take that back. I did own a pistol. It was a Russian Makarov. That's what I had. I had a Russian Makarov. It's like a 9x17. It wouldn't shoot regular 9mm Luger. So I got that Russian Makarov out, and I stuck it down in the shirt pocket. And I lowered my crossbow and my backpack and everything down. And by the time I got down out of the tree, it was pitch black. I put my little headlight on. You can see the headlight. Here's the skull. I already showed you that. That was the skull. I keep that up there in the office. I'll set that there. You can see in the picture, I got my headlight on there. And so I put my headlight on, and where the bear went, the trail went like this and out. So I knew I was going to have to walk right by him. I heard him moan. That usually means they died. But when you're I'm not used to hunting bears. I'm thinking the guy's still alive. I'm thinking about like I'm walking down some salmon stream after dark in Alaska. I mean, I'm on that kind of edge, right? So I go down that trail. I got my light. I got my little 9mm Makarov pistol. And I get out to the field. It's a little bit lighter out there. I'm out of the woods. I walk back to the cabin where we stay, and Ryan's already there. And I'm like, dude, you had to walk further than I did. He was on the other side of the hill. I said, how'd you beat me here? He said, I shot a bear an hour ago. I was like, really? I just shot one. He said, well, I know where mine's at. Do you know where yours? I'm like, no, I don't know where mine's at. So I said, let's go get him. So we go back and we find mine, and sure enough, there's the picture of it right there. And that bear weighed 263 pounds. It was pretty lean. It was a big, long, lanky bear. And so went down and got Ryan's. His was smaller, about the size of the rug you see in the back. Well, no, that one's bigger than that. I've got a smaller one at home, kind of like his first bear. Anyways, we loaded those two bears up and took them home. We spent the rest of the night skinning them. And I worked at Frito-Lay at the time with One-Eyed Hippie. And I had a Frito route to run in the morning. And so I got home at like 5 o'clock. I got home at 4 o'clock. I hauled some of the carcasses and scraps off. And I got all the meat in the freezer, got the hide in the freezer, got in the shower, and I laid down to go to bed at 5 o'clock the next morning. And anyways, so I laid down and got me a good 2 or 3 hours sleep, and got up and ran my route. I was a little late, but I killed my first bear. So the next year we went again. We each killed a bear on the first night. I shot a little one. He shot one that weighed 503 pounds. And it killed us. He shot it down the mountain, and it ran down the mountain. And then we had to haul it out on one of them game haulers built to handle 200 pounds. We had 2.5 times that much on there, and we were going up a mountain, rocks. It broke. The game collar was in pieces when we got it in the back of the truck. I never want to relive that night again. That was miserable. Anyways, so I've killed 3 bears. I wouldn't shoot another one unless he was biting my arm off. It's just way too much work. Unless somebody wanted to send me on a guided trip where I could shoot them and go get them, bring them to the house. Let me take my picture. Y'all go skin them and cut them up. That kind of thing, I'd do that. But, man, I'm just not built for pulling bears out of the woods all night. And, they're like skinning a 300-pound possum. I mean, they're just not any fun. All right, let me back up and see what all I've missed. A lot of people have showed up since I started talking. Hey, Coyote Man great again. He's able to comment. Fitzpreacher Farm, my buddy right down the road. Did I choke out the bear? No. Uncle Jim's here. Philip Morris is here. What do you use to keep the ticks off when in the woods? They're not real bad where I'm at. And it may be because they're treating the cattle with Ivomec. You could always squirt a little Ivomec between your shoulder blades. I don't know, might make you grow hair in weird places, but it would probably keep the ticks off. I used some stuff called Permanun. I used it in the military. It was really good. And I've still got some of the military stuff. They probably didn't test it on lab rats other than us. But I don't put it on a lot. But if ticks are bad, or I know there's a bunch of ticks where I'm going, I spray on the Permanun. So that's a good question. Roy, what was your job in the Air Force? I was a bomb loader. I was in security forces. Roy, it was security police when I got in, and then they changed it to security forces right after I got in. And I was what was that called? A ground combat. There were 2 sides. There was law enforcement, and then there was I forgot the name of it. It seems funny that I can't remember that all of a sudden. But anyways, we also operated CADM, which was the firearms training. When I was in, you could be a cop, you could be outside perimeter, and you could also do firearms training. and you were considered security police. My individual role, I was an assistant 60 gunner, and then I was a 60 gunner, and then I was a saw gunner. So that's all the thing. That was my primary role. When I was in the field, I was either assisting a 60, carrying a 60, or at the end when we got saws, I carried the saw. Most of the time on base, we just carried, M16A2 and a 9mm Beretta. That was my primary duty weapons on base. Pastor Terry's here, Terry D's. Reflection of a reflection reminds me of getting a haircut as a kid with mirrors in front and behind. Yeah, it's true, Will. My solar electric fence keeps the bears away. Yes, it will. Almost engine hunting. I've killed 3 bears. The funny thing is, I hunted the same stand and the same bait 2 years in a row, and I shot both of my bears standing in the exact same place. And so the third year, I said, I'm tired of sitting here. All the bears, regardless of where they come from, they circle and get down behind me and come in. I'm tired of looking over my shoulder. So I moved off to the side of the same bait, but I was 15 yards away. And I was sitting there the third year, and guess, lo and behold, I look over my shoulder and I saw something behind me. So bears just like to sneak up behind me. But I killed the first 2 bears at 4 yards and the last bear at 12 or 15 yards. The key to killing a bear is let them get so close it's hard to miss. That's my motto. The movie Call of the Wild was based on a preacher's story. That's funny, Eagle Eye. No, Kenny, I'm pretty tame. I used to be pretty wild, but I'm pretty tame. Do you carry any meds for snakes while hunting? No, I don't. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea. Just don't. The edge. Did you shoot it with a lamp? No, it was daylight. But I do look like a spotlighter with it on. But that was back when the little small, AA battery headlamps first came out. I mean, used to, if you had a headlamp, it cost you like $150. It was a wheat light or something like that. That was when the little compact ones first came out, probably 20 years ago. Did I barbecue? Oh, hang on, Jack London. Hello from the great state of Pennsylvania. Charles Miller, it's glad to have you. Did I barbecue any? Actually, I did not. I grind it all. I cut all the fat off. A bear is just all white fat when you skin it. And the muscle part is actually really, really small. I cut all the fat off, and I try to get just straight muscle, and I have it all ground. I took the back straps out. The back straps in a bear are kind of flat, and they're really about that big. So it's not like a deer. They're not built like a deer. My advice is cut all the fat you can get off, get down to straight meat. When you get straight meat, then grind it. Bear is the only meat I've shot in the wild that gives off no odor when you cook it. And maybe that's just because I'm shooting fall bears that are eating acorns, but you could literally lean over the skillet with ground bear meat frying and not smell it. And it's the best meat. But you got a 260-pound bear. You take off 60 pounds of hide and head. He's got big bone structure. He's all gut. When you gut him, and you take the bones out, you take 100 pounds of fat off, you do all that. In the end, you got a couple of gallon Ziploc baggies of just meat. I mean, there's not that much meat for the amount of animal. There's a lot of meat on there, but for the amount of animal, there's not that much meat unless you want the fat. Now, I got a guy here, part of my wife's family, lives nearby. He wants the bear fat. He makes bear fat soap, and he's a clean man. And he'll take that soap and render it down and make bear lard, and he does a lot with it. But with me, I don't mess with the fat. I just get the meat and the hide. It's a lot of work. You gotta fill a bait barrel twice a week for a month in advance. Get them coming in. You got to hang your stand. Then you're there the first day of October or the last Saturday of September. It's hot. You can't just shoot them and hang them and let them hang. You got to do something with them right then. You're up all night. Bear hunting's not an old fat guy sport. It's for young people. And I'm just too old to do it, I think. So let's see here. Where did I leave off there? It's the story of 3 bears. Yeah. I got them all, Little Red Riding Hood. I got them all. He wasn't loaded for bear. Nope. Fitz Preacher does great cooking and cast iron. Yes, he does, Philip. Need the big stick. Yes, sir. Preacher is full-blown badass. No fear. No, I was pretty spooked. I ain't gonna lie to you. Walking around with a bear wounded in the woods, you don't know if it's dead or not in the dark by yourself, long ways from a hospital, it's pretty spooky. Let's see here. You've been rafting on the Mulberry lately. No, I don't fish the Mulberry until the level at the Turner Bend store is below 2 foot. If it's above 2 foot, it's just not fit to fish. I like it to be around 1.4 to 1.2 when it's just trickling out of one big pool into another, and all the smallmouth get in the big pools and the water's calm. And that's when I like to fish the Mulberry if it's me. Bearded Carpenter's here. I'm going to say something. If you haven't checked out the Bearded Carpenter, the guy's building a log cabin that looks better than the cabinets in my kitchen. I mean, dovetails, I'm a craftsman all the way. Do more with a chainsaw than I could do with a shot plane. Trevor Morphew. Hey, Preacher. Hey, it's good to see you, Trevor. Hope you're doing well. Measuring Grains. Good to have you. Charles Miller. Squatch Reloading. Good to have you, sir. Appalachian Reloader. Good to have you. Floyd Hicks. Glad you stopped by. Darius. Jedberg. Mark. Self-quarantine away from the wife and kittens, dogs, now chickens in the house. Mark is my buddy that brings the milsurp over and lets me shoot him, and gave me the sweet little Luger pistol, 22 pistol that you saw for my birthday. Let's scroll down through here. Uncle John, thanks for stopping by. Glad to have you anytime. Air-to-ground combat. We were actually like a ground defense force, a perimeter defense force for the air bases. Pretty much what it is. Have you been on the Sac River in the Ouachita Forest? No, I haven't. In the Ouachita, Philip, I have fished the Petit Jean, and I fished the Cossatot, and there's another one, the Fush, but that's about all I fished in the Ouachitas. Can't bait bears here. We couldn't for years. Just became legal here a few years ago. Was the bear member was that a bear's member you used as a pointer? Yes, it was. That was my dad's. If I'd known that bears had a toothpick in them, I would have cut out every one I could, because this was a big boar, the one I showed you the skull of. I would have bet it would have had a dandy toothpick in it. But my dad was, he's killed, I think 3 or 4 bears in Canada. I think 4. Yeah. And the last one he shot was a whopper, and they cleaned that bone up and gave it to him. And you know what I use it for? In all seriousness, it is the exact size you need for a Remington 870 Magnum plug, so you can only hold 3 shells and be federally legal for migratory birds. It makes a great plug and a great story. Barnett Youth Crossbow. Yeah. Jackal. Bear Claws, Big Medicine. Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you, one of my favorite characters in a Western movie is the guy off Jeremiah Johnson. He's his old Grizz, the one that says, "You ever skin a bear?" And he said, "I can skin anything you bring me." And then next thing you know, he hears that guy hollering, and he looks out the door of the cabin, and that old man's running through the snow, and that big old grizzly's behind him. He runs in that cabin, the bear chases him in there, and that old man jumps out the window and looks in there, and you hear pots and pans, and old Redford finally shoots the bear, and he's laughing. He goes, "Skin that, and Pilgrim, I'll bring you another." And that's always been a joke around here. Skin that one, and I'll bring you another. But old Grizz, if you've never seen Jeremiah Johnson, you ought to watch it. And if you want an awesome book to read, I mean a book that will blow your mind, read Liver Eating Johnson, The Crow Killer. Liver Eating Johnson, The Crow Killer. I won't run it for you. Just go read it. It is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Wayne, I went bear hunting once in Quebec with a friend. Ended up with a snowshoe rabbit. Yeah, I went bear hunting in Canada. Never saw a bear. It it was kind of a fishing camp, but the guy guided bear hunts on the side. It was one of them kind of deals. So, anyways, Lever Gun 50. Hey, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you, Jeremy. When are y'all going back to church? Well, that's something we're just discussing with the members. We don't want to advertise when we're starting church yet. We don't know what the governor's going to say. We've been kind of secretly, privately meeting in various locations, and we don't want to. The reason that we quit meeting, we wanted just to continue to meet as a small church, but people were contacting us wanting to know if we were having church because they wanted to come, and we were going to end up with a larger congregation during the virus than what we had just with our normal people on a normal Sunday. So we've just kind of stepped away, and whenever we meet, I'll let the people in the church know, and we'll meet, and where we meet and how we meet, and we're just not advertising. When all this blows over, everything will be back to normal. But till then, I just want to keep it just us. Charles Miller, we put on drives for bears. I've heard people in Pennsylvania talk about that. We walk many miles a day. Dragging one out takes hours. Heck of a workout. I'm telling you, I do not want to shoot another bear unless somebody else is handling it. I mean, the first one I'm like, hey, I killed a bear. Hey, can I do it again? Hey, I've killed 2 bears. This is back when really not many people in Arkansas ever killed a bear. And I'm like, I've killed 2 bears. I've killed 2 bears. And then when I shot the third one, I thought, what in the world am I doing? I've killed 3 bears in 3 years on the opening day of bear season. It's not that hard if you got a good spot and a good bait. And after that, now my buddy Ryan, he still hunts them every year. And he still stays at it. It's just not for me. Not for me. Petty Jean, a lot of fun to fish on. Yes, it is. How about that, preacher? Hey, Hadaway. Hunting with Hadaway, one of my favorite hunting channels. I'm glad he stopped by. If you want to see a South Alabama deer drive, dog drive, redneck, radio talking, turkey hunting, squirrel shooting, watch Hunting with Hadaway. I mean, if you're not already, something's probably wrong with you. Go to Alaska, bring a bigger bow. Yeah. What was the total on the chick hatch? I got a video. We're going to do it tonight. We still had a couple of stragglers trying to hatch today. So when I get home, we're going to go through the eggs and get an exact number. And I'll have a chick hatch video up probably tomorrow, Anthony. Probably tomorrow. Well, we got one that's kind of, he might make it, he might not. He was in the shell a long time. But if you like reading, Peter Cartwright autobiography, was a circuit rider in Kentucky, Tennessee area. One time rode a blind horse 500 miles to get back home. Wow, that's pretty neat. Underground church in America. Who would have thunk? Yeah, no kidding. But that's the way we got to do it. That's the way we got to do it. You ever come to Ozarks to hunt bears or fish? I live in the Ozarks, actually. I live in between the Ozark Mountains and the Arkansas River. I can be in the Ozark Mountains in about 20 minutes from my house. I just don't ever get down central Arkansas. If I had a friend down there on a lake somewhere that was catching crappie and he invited me, I'd probably come down there, Philip, just to be honest with you. You go hog hunting, only at night and only with my uncle. I don't have any hogs on our property or near our property. And my uncle, he operates thermals, and he and some friends are probably as good as anybody in our state at liquidating a hog problem. And I've been with him a couple or 3 times, and it's a blast. That's why I'm saving all my money to buy a set of thermals, and getting real close to getting them. Oh, what's that last question? Okay, question. Did you drive a golf ball in the wall? Over the left shoulder. No, I didn't. But what's this? out the doors in case I'm attacked. That's funny. I never thought about it that way. It does look like I've never played a round of golf in my life. I've been to the driving range a couple times, and that told me all I needed to know. I'm not a golfer. Not at all. Are you reloading? Are you redoing the field that got flooded? We actually rented that land out. There was a whole, I don't know how you want to say it. There was a perfect storm of bad events that happened to us last year. My father-in-law got really bad sick and almost died in January. Spent probably 6 weeks at a hospital in Little Rock in intensive care. Got good enough to come home, go to rehab, got in rehab, was about ready to come home, fell and broke his hip. Went back to the hospital, went back to rehab, came home and fell 3 or 4 times. During all this bad bouts of his health, he's the farmer, it's his land. The flood hits in July, June and July, and everything's flooded. The neighbors all had to go down and get our cattle for us. We were all in Little Rock at the time. And they went down, loaded the cattle, brought them home. Then we had 3 times as many cattle as we could run on a little piece of ground. And so that they were getting out of the fences because they didn't want to eat old hay. And they wanted green grass. And so it was just this. So then my father-in-law passes away towards the end of summer. And my mother-in-law has to sell cows. He didn't want to sell any cows. He wanted just to get everything back together, but he was in no shape to do anything. And nobody wanted to, in the shape he was in, telling him they weren't going to do what he wanted. So at the end of summer, I began meeting with some farmers that were interested in the land. We don't want to sell it. We just wanted to rent it. And so ended up renting it to another cattleman. And they've been working on it all winter, and they've got it looking pretty good. There's still a little strip along the river where you saw a lot of those big sand dunes. That's still sandy, but they've leveled some of the dunes. All the other fields under the pivot looks fine. Brandon came over and got the pivot running. Everything's ready to grow hay or run cows, except for that little strip along the river, and it's still sandy. But things are coming around, but we're not responsible for it. My mother-in-law got rid of enough cows where she's just keeping cattle around the house. There's around 200 acres around her house that she's running cattle on and cutting her own hay there. So she's kind of just cut the farm in half. Well, cut it by a third. She's got a third, and then there's like 400 acres down there. But yeah, it's really getting back to normal. Why do organic egg sellers at the store say their chickens are 100% vegetarian fed? Don't chickens eat bugs? Chickens are omnivores. You got carnivores and you got vegetarians, and then you got omnivores, and we're omnivores. A carnivore would be like a wolf. A vegetarian would be like a beaver. And an omnivore eats anything he wants to eat, like a bear. A bear eats as many vegetables and berries and grass as he eats meat. And it's whatever the best food source is. And killing something takes energy, especially if you're going to go kill a bear. So chickens do eat bugs, and I don't know why. If somebody's saying their chickens are 100% vegetarian, then that means they're penned up and they're being fed grain. And it's got to be organic grain. And I'll just be honest with you. I wouldn't pay for organic eggs. I just wouldn't. Because if you're having to buy feed that's been certified organic, it's 3 times as much as regular old feed. And people are concerned about all this stuff. But if you get free range chickens and you put them on a big pasture, and there's guys up here that do this, they actually take old camping trailers, okay? They go in an old camping trailer and gut it. And they put egg boxes down both walls and roosting poles in the middle. and then they string out electric fence all the way around the camper in a pasture. And they open up the door in the morning and all the chickens run out and they stay inside the fenced area. They put a dog in there to kind of keep the hawks and stuff away. And these chickens just eat whatever grass, bugs, whatever they want. And then they go inside the camper and lay their eggs. And then at night, they all go in there and the guy shuts the door, takes the fence down, pulls the camper with a tractor, pulls it to another spot, fences it all back off. And like every 3 days, they're on a new piece of pasture. They feed them very little feed, but those chickens aren't organic. They're eating worms and they're eating every bug they can get their beak around. So I would eat those eggs. And if you get eggs, you ever seen eggs that were like the center of them wasn't yellow, it was like orange, like almost dark orange. Those chickens have been eating bugs and worms and stuff like that. Chickens that have a real pale yellow, like you get store-bought white eggs, those eggs don't have any color to them because the chickens aren't getting the same diet as the chickens out in the free-range chickens are. And buying free range is a little bit better than buying where they're sitting in a cage just dropping an egg a day. But to be free range just means they're not in a cage. So they may still be pretty well confined. But if you can find a guy that's got like some yard birds, running loose on the farm, you can get those eggs. Now, those are some good eggs. Good eggs. Bait Ammo, hey, thanks for coming by, saying howdy. Hi, right back to you. Mike Myers, do you like enchiladas? Dude, I'm fat. I didn't get this figure by not liking food. Any kind of Mexican works for me. Thanks, Wayne. Hunting with Hadaway. That Arrowhead is epic, Bait Ammo. I guess I'm going to have to go check out Bait Ammo's. Wow, that is. That's something. Uncle John, I thought orange, yikes, meant fresh. All of them are a little bit orange, but if you get the really, really dark orange ones, it's because they've been out foraging. And some of that may be what they eat, and some of it just may be the exercise and the freedom they have. If you see like broilers in a broiler house, my in-laws, when I met my wife, she just married me so she wouldn't have to keep working in the chicken house. They had a couple of chicken houses. Broilers is what they raised for Tyson and then for OK Foods. But broiler chickens are not designed to go out and move around. They're actually built just to sit, eat, and drink. And they have a big bone structure. They're lethargic. They're actually bred not to move. We raised some, and they just sat down, and they would lay down and peck food on the ground, and they wouldn't get up to do anything. And they're just not built to do that. They've been genetically bred to be what they are. Now, that's what you want, because otherwise you're going to get a real small chicken before he gets big enough to be worth harvesting. And by the time you grow out a normal chicken to the size that you want to eat him, he's tough. Well, we did that before too. So broiler chickens are bred to be broilers. Laying chickens, they're bred to be layers. And if you get some of these modern hybrids like barred rocks and like red rocks and some of these just prolific layers, they're dumb. They don't have any sense about them. We raised, I think, 5 or 6 red rocks. They were production layers from the some 4-H kid raised them and showed them at the fair. And so we had those, and we had one white leghorn, and a white leghorn is more like a heritage breed. Now, they're great layers, but they look more kind of gamey. They're lanky. They're a lean chicken. And you can go back and watch a video called Turning Your Problems into Omelets. We picked a bunch of tomato hornworms or tobacco hornworms, big old long, green, nasty looking. Oh, I just hate grabbing them, but you have to get them off your tomatoes. We picked a bunch of those and carried them around to the chickens. I think we did this last summer or maybe the summer before last. And we throwed like 30 of them in there on the ground to 4 red rocks or barred rocks, something like that. I think they were red rocks. They were a sex-linked chicken that was bred just to lay eggs. We throw all this chicken feed in there, which is these great big, green worms. And that little white leghorn hen would run up and get one and go over here by herself, and she'd kill it and eat it and choke it down and go back and grab another one. And she ate like, I don't remember the numbers. Let's just make up a number for the sake of explaining this. There were like 36 worms. That one white chicken ate like 26 of them. The other 4 hens split 10 between them. And the reason is that white chicken has instincts that you get from generation after generation after generation of being a farm bird. Okay. The sex-linked chickens, a lot of that instinct, it was not in their parents. Their parents were picked, genetically altered. Oh, man, I hate to get off on evolution. Evolution means that things evolve from nothing to something. I don't believe in that. I don't believe you start with nothing and things get better and become something. Something has to manipulate that. Okay? Mankind manipulates animals under his control. Exhibit A, the horse. How did we get all these animals on the ark? Well, you only needed 2 horses. From 2 horses, you could get a Shetland, you could get a quarter horse, you could get a thoroughbred, you could get whatever you wanted out of 2 horses over time. Look at the dog. If we start with a wolf, we got 2 wolves, and we start picking the ones with less hair, and we start picking the shorter ones, and we start picking the ones with a pug snout, and you give us about 6,000 years, we'll end up with a pug and a chihuahua and a wolf and a husky. Okay? Chickens are the same way. Mankind has selectively bred chickens to produce what he wants. And in turn, with dogs, we've created a whole lot of dogs can't live by themselves. You and I both know if we took the average teacup chihuahua and turned him loose on the land, a hawk would get him the first day. And if he made the first day, an owl would get him the first night. They can't make it on their own. We've genetically modified them dogs by breeding what we want. We've done the same thing with chickens. And if I was to recommend to get chickens, I would get some kind of a heritage breed. Unless you just want a bunch of eggs, I would rather have healthy birds. By the way, all those sex-linked chickens that we had, they all died. They got sick, they got some form of disease, and they died. That white leghorn is still living and still just as active as ever. But the reason being, those chickens that were genetically bred just to lay eggs, in production egg houses, they keep them a year, year and a half, and they're done. They're cycling through there. Whereas heritage birds were designed to raise chickens. And so that's why all that egg stuff's free. I didn't charge y'all anything for that. That's all free. I got to get on something else or I'm going to get on evolution. I don't want to do that. James Pollard, thanks for coming by. Dan Crofton, them are good eggs. Yes, they are. Brown leghorn looks like a game and lays good. I'd like to have a brown leghorn. PC Bullet Empire. Hey, Tim, thanks for coming by. We're talking chickens here, boys. Hey, my first job was working on a fighting chicken ranch. That was an experience. That was probably the best job I ever had as a kid. I say, boy, yes, a little foghorn leghorn there. Those are good. Uncle Jim, those are some good graphics. Have you been to Cave City Watermelon Festival? I have not. I don't think I've ever been to Cave City. I've been near there, though. Coyote Man Grady Gann, did you ever slap a mule on the butt while your cousin sat on it? Yes, I did. I also borrowed your horse one time and rode it in a show-deo, and it had never really been in an arena. And that was a whole embarrassing experience as well. That is how our chickens was. They ate feed and whatever they could find. Yeah, we feed our chickens. Our little 4 Millie LaFleur bannies. We throw feed out every day. I feed them vegetable scraps. And once the garden gets up and growing, the chickens we have in the brooder will be big enough we can start throwing any bad vegetables in there. My dad had a blue hen to set. Yep. She was meaner than a Rottweiler. Hey, I've seen some fighting roosters that would wear your legs out. And that's funny. I can tell you some funny stories there, but I think we've about chickened out here. My wife was a chicken farmer now. She has 8. Wow. My wife would have 80 if I'd let her. But she grew up on a chicken farm and hated chickens. But then when she realized there were chickens other than just dumb broilers, then she became a chicken fan. We are eggheads now. Yep, you're wiser, and I'm out of breath. Best tasting watermelons come from Cave City. Wow, Bearded Carpenter says I need to get up there. Your wife still using her garden weasel? Actually, no. We've mulched everything in straw. Wayne News says farmers are destroying their hogs and cattle because of broken food chain. Don't they know about freezers? Well, the problem is you're talking about commercial hog farms. Just like with commercial chickens, you get those chickens like today's broiler is about a 7-week chicken. So you get that chicken and in 7 weeks he's ready to butcher. Well, 7 weeks ago, nobody foresaw that people in the food packing industries would get sick and not be able to work in a USDA plant for 3 weeks. And so what's happening is they're not able to process them. Well, like the cows that my mother-in-law has on our family farm, if the prices are not good, she just leaves them on the farm. They just keep eating grass. They eat hay. We put out grain. But the cattle that are in trouble are the ones that are in the feedlots. See, we would sell our calves, and they would go to a feedlot, and the feedlot would finish them out. You don't want to eat a calf off our farm because he's just been out there eating weeds and poke salad and junk you don't want. And his meat's going to be lean and tough, and it's not even going to taste like the steaks you're used to getting out of the store. What makes a steak good is grain feeding. So you take a calf, we get him up to 600 or 800 pounds, then he goes to a feedlot, and they finish him and get him up to 12 to 1,400, let's say, depending on what the market wants. That finishing weight is where the fat, well, that's where you get your marbling at, because the cows are in a confined space, and being in a confined space keeps them from burning off what they're eating, and they're fed a high-calorie, high-protein diet. So they're eating corn instead of Johnson grass or Bermuda. They're eating corn, they're eating wheat, they're eating soybean hulls, and they're limiting their movement, so they're just getting fat. It's like being a preacher. You know, back when I used to work all day, every day, I wasn't near this big, but you put me in an office reading all day and eating lunch with people, I'm like stall-fed cattle. I'm probably a cannibal's delight. So I say all that to say that's been going on since the days of King Solomon, King David. They ate stall-fed cattle. You hear people talk about grass-fed beef. Those are health nuts. Those are not people that know what good beef tastes like. Them's the same people that eat wheatgrass and cactus root and ginger leaves and all that other weird stuff. But hey, to each his own. So the reason those hogs are getting killed is because they're at the end of their cycle and they can't keep feeding them. They're consuming maximum amounts of grain, and there's no processor to take them to. And they've got hundreds, thousands of them, all one size. Whereas my mother-in-law just leaves them in the pasture, and we put it off for 3 months, 6 months. We sell bigger calves instead of smaller calves. We're out a little feed. Our pastures are a little tight. We may have to buy some hay. But when you're keeping them in a stall and you're feeding them and then you don't have anywhere to go with them, that's where you're in trouble. You've got stall-fed cattle and nowhere that need to be killed and not just passed down to the next guy in the line. Hope that explains things. Let's see here. What did I miss? Got my garden planted yesterday, raining tonight. Georgia boy, that's great. I got mine planted yesterday and it rained that night, and everything's looking really, really good. Everything's looking real good. I went out and checked all my tomatoes. They're looking great. I need to come to Cave City and get some melon seeds. Are you near Cave City? I mean, I know you run the Ozarks. You're more central Arkansas. I'm more western, northwestern. But yeah, when's that festival? Probably like July or August. Have to let me know. What's your favorite way fixing rabbits to eat? Fried. My daddy had beagles growing up. We rabbit hunted as soon as gun deer season closed. We rabbit hunted every day, every weekend of December, January, and February. We ran beagles just about every Saturday, and we ate fried rabbit. That's about all we ever ate was fried rabbit. Fried rabbit. I don't remember eating it any other way. Well, I take that back. Everybody else used to have Mexican chicken. We'd have Mexican rabbit. My mom would boil some, pull all the meat off, put it in Mexican chicken. Joseph Grace, hello, preacher. I just noticed you were on. My daughter likes seeing your new chicks. I'll have a chicken video up tomorrow, Joseph, and I'll give you a total count of how many we hatched. Do you have any honeybees? No, but I'm not the guy to take care of honeybees. I wish somebody would just bring a hive to me, and they could have all the honey on it. I need bees, and I really think that's what kind of hurt. My garden's been good every year. I haven't had any just bad failure years, but I haven't seen the honeybees the last 2 years like I have in years past. There's been less of them. Things are so technical these days. Yeah, Uncle John, I would pass on grass fed. Yeah, it just doesn't taste like regular beef. If you're used to eating beef and you go to grass fed, you'd be better off just eat deer meat, in my opinion. If you're going to eat grass fed, eat buffalo. I've ate buffalo that tasted better than grass fed beef, and I've ate good buffalo. Things are technical these days. They are. MCK, hey, thanks for coming by. Did y'all get the storms last night? We got, it kind of broke up right when it got to us. There was a little outburst that went over us, and the storms broke up. North of us, there were like tornadoes. South of us, there were damaging winds. We didn't really get anything, Carpenter. I know I put all my plants that I had on the back porch. I've got a bunch of seedlings started, and I put them all inside my little greenhouse, whatever that cheesy. It's not a greenhouse. It's a little shelf with clear plastic over it. I put them all in there so the wind wouldn't tear them up too bad, and they all did fine. And all the tomatoes that I planted were still about straw level, so they were all fine. Everything survived the storm good at my house. NRA for life. Thanks for coming by. Fried rabbit, gravy, and biscuits. Georgia boy, I'll be right over. Just get it on. Just go ahead and get the skillet warm. I'm headed that way. When I was a kid in the 79s, all the meat rabbits were white with red eyes. I remember that. My dad actually raised some meat rabbits when I was a kid. That was probably, funny thing is, I was probably about 4 years old, so that was like 79. And I remember they were all white with pink eyes. Yeah, that's true. No bees here either. I don't know what the bee thing is. I don't know if it's pesticides, if it's GMO corn, mites. I really don't know. But I know there's more people keeping bees now than there was, say, 10 or 20 years ago, and I think that's great. There's several hives that I see in people's yards near me. Just nobody wants to bring me one. Of course, I'm kind of out in the woods, bees that have to fly through 200 yards of timber just to find a field to feed on if they wasn't eating out of my garden. So I get it. The 70s. Yep. I knew what you meant. I just thought 79 was funny. I ran rabbit over a couple weeks ago. Went back and skint that rascal out too. Yep. I'm going to tell you, we used to have a deal. We'd go rabbit hunting with a pack of beagles my dad had. A lot of people would go with us. And I think the limit back then was 8. And we didn't always have limits. Rabbits go in cycles. They'll kind of be down, and then they'll get a little better, and then all of a sudden conditions will be perfect. Predator populations will be down. Rabbits will just bust. I think it's about a 6-year cycle. About every 6 years, you just get tons of rabbits. Anyways, you get one of those kind of years. Maybe it's every 3 years or 4. I don't know. They're cyclic. You get one of those good years where, everybody got their limit in rabbits every time we went. We would get down on the creek. I remember out in Fort Chaffee, military base here nearby. we'd go out there and hunt them, and we'd go to this creek on Vash, and you could drive across the bridge, but all the tanks couldn't go across the bridge. They were too heavy. So they had to take the tank trail, and there was like rock down in the bottom so the tanks wouldn't get stuck. So we'd go down there on those rocks, and the guy up front, the guy downstream would be pulling the hair off and cutting the feet and head off. The guy right next to him be gutting them and pulling all the guts out and washing them. The guy down on the upstream side, which would be the clearest water because it'd be flowing this way, he'd be up there washing them out and putting them in an ice chest. Other people would be packing them in ice chests, and we'd be doing this on both sides of Ash. Man, we could clean 48 rabbits. I mean, it looked like we were as good as them chicken processors, man. We could clean rabbits fast. Everybody just had one job. All your job is to pull the backbone. Your job is to cut the feet. Your job is to cut the head and pull the guts out. It just went like this, and man, we could process some rabbits, and then we'd get up there and divvy them all up, and everybody take home their fair share. But that was good times back then. Benjamin Henning, preacher, you make it to Harrison. I've actually got some kinfolk that live in Harrison. I've got a cousin and her husband that live up there. They run a berry farm, a U-Pick berry farm, and I haven't been up there in 3 or 4 years, but I like that's good country up around Harrison. I would like to live up that way, but it's been a few years since I've been through there. My daughter wants you to talk about the mount on the wall behind you, the coyote. That's a great big coyote I shot, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. And sometime I'll have to put a picture up of me holding it, but that's an extremely large coyote. Some people call it a wolf, but it's illegal to shoot wolves, and we don't have any around here, so it's an extremely large coyote. But a friend of mine, Brandon Mitchell, mounted the coyote. We had to custom make a form for it. None of the coyote forms fitted it, so we ordered a small Canadian wolf form, and then we made it a little bit longer and made the neck a little thicker. So it's actually mounted on a small wolf form, but we had to make the form a little bigger to fit this coyote. And it's just an odd shaped coyote, really. It didn't match any of the measurements. So the rock, I built the rock. It's foam. That's a foam, like a plastic foam that's molded on rock, and it just comes in big sheets, and you break it apart. So I broke it and screwed it together and kind of made that little, like a ledge that he's trotting out on. And then you take paper mache and fill in all the cracks where your rock comes together, because the rock's just flat. It's just kind of like this, it's like rock. So inside that is kind of a wood frame that I've screwed drywall screws, and I've screwed different pieces of foam and different angles. And then once you get all that done, you paint it all a uniform color, like a light gray. And then you go back with a water-based stain that's kind of dark gray. And that's how you get that kind of light and dark deal on the rock. So I made the rock. Brandon Mitchell mounted the coyote. Brandon Mitchell's probably one of the top taxidermists in our state as far as just being a guy that's really, really good at taxidermy. I mean, he's really, really good. Food Fight. Hello, everyone. Hey, thanks for coming by. Food Fight Showdown. I sure miss rabbit hunting. Pretty thin around here these days. Yeah, I hadn't been rabbit hunting, and I don't know when. July 23rd, Cave City Waterman. Well, all right. If that's on a Saturday, that's something I may do. I tell you what, as we get closer, Philip, remind me. That's something I may want to do come mid-July. Gatlinburg, mid-July, just hit town and my throat was dry. What song that come out of? Should put a chicken mount near the coyote. I've seen people at taxidermy competitions that mounted like a fox carrying a chicken, like a game rooster, a little banty rooster. Actually look very, very good. You quail or dove hunt? No, I've only quail hunted a few times. We never had bird dogs. I used to dove hunt a lot, but anymore, it's just, and even though I've got good dove hunting land, you really need to put in a field if you're going to do it, and you need several people to do it with you. And then you got to run all the other people off that charge to the sound of shots. And I just never have really dove hunted since. If somebody wanted to put a dove field in and invite me, I'd go, but it's not something that I want to put the effort into anymore. Ponderosa, eagle eye shooting. Hey, brother, bait ammo. Is that the coyote you video shot? No, with a 243, and those are spear bullets. But no, it's not. Actually, this coyote is bigger than that one. But in my area, we have this kind of coyote. It's big. I mean, I don't know how to. People walk into my office and they see that coyote and they're like, I saw one like that. So mine was a little bit longer, a little bit taller, had bigger teeth. I'm like, no, it didn't. When I'm holding that coyote, I'm holding his feet up at the top of my head and his nose is touching the ground. I mean, he's as long as I am. That's not, I mean, that coyotes just don't get that big. That he ate it might have been the steroids in the chickens. They're giving the chicken steroids. The coyote eats the chicken with the steroids, and then you got a steroid coyote. Thank you. She's watching you with me for the first time, so I'm getting lots of questions. That's a bearskin rug. That's the third bear over there. Joseph, I don't know if your daughter saw the bear skull at the start of the video. I told a bear story. This was the first bear I ever killed here. The skull out of it. He's got a little tartar. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of bright, but he's got a little tartar. But I actually bleached that skull out myself and used some pool chemicals. And it's actually cleaned up. I mean, the bottom's a little dirty, but if you look at what you're seeing, I really brushed it pretty good. And I probably ought to seal it or something. Because that thing's been dead for quite a while. So, got that there. Johnny Cash, boy named Sue. Y'all are right. Gatlinburg, mid-July. Just hit town. My throat was dry. I thought I'd stop and have myself a brew. Then he spots his dad because he recognizes his evil eye. Any other questions? I've been going for about an hour now, and so it's probably starting to get time to wrap up. If you got a question or anything you want to ask, I'll give you a couple minutes to get it up there, and I'll try to answer it. I thank you guys for stopping by. It looks like we've got about 41 people watching. That's kind of surprised me. Powder coat the bear skull. Oh, man. I've got some Georgia boy sent me some red powder coat. I've got in a bag in there, and I've even got some of his bullets I can powder coat. I tell you what I need. I need to go shoot the 357 bullets. I've got some 158 grain XTPs, the 182 grain tacos, and the cranky 153 Arsenal bullets. I've got all of them loaded, and I've got a 5-shot group of each loaded. I've got some test loads of 300 blackout that I'm going to shoot as well. Thanks for sharing your fun times. Thanks for tuning in and listening. Tripas, Wayne, I don't know what a tripas is. Sounds like Mexican food, and if it is, I'd probably eat it. Got to run, brother. Come see us when you can. Bearded Carpenter, I want to come see you. I want to come down and see the progress on the cabin. I've watched every video you've put out. I tend to watch your videos on the TV, so I don't comment as often as if I were watching them on the computer, but I kind of view Bearded Carpenter's cabin building videos more as a documentary. Most of what I do is just, I don't know what it is. It's just whatever. Did you get the 357 to shoot? That's what I was saying, James. I've got test loads to try. I have 3 bullets that grouped well, and I worked a lot on trying to get a uniform crimp on these. And we we had that big storm come through the other night. It kind of clouded up a few times today. I had to go to town and had to stop by the doctor's office and make a couple errands today, but tomorrow I may go shoot all those and the 300 blackout with I think I'm trying 150 grain spear soft points, the hot core soft points in blackout. I've got those loaded as well. Do you hunt hogs? Only at night and only when my uncle takes me, and then once I get my own thermal, I'll be hunting them a lot more often. Go to Georgia twice a year and hunt with my brother. When's the next live chat? Roy, I don't know. I'd like to do one a month, really, maybe 2 a month if it works out. I enjoy doing them. It allows me to kind of interact with y'all. I mean, the whole reason for my channel, it was called Preacher's Day Off, because I started taking 1 day a week where I didn't work. I used to, pastor the church, and on my day off, I'd do pool services and clean swimming pools, and I finally got to where I realized, I just need a day where I don't have to work. So I did that. I didn't work. Well, I ended up just sitting around doing nothing. So I started the channel to make me get up and do something on my day off. And then I started making friends on here, people I never met, so now my motivation for doing it really is y'all. I enjoy interacting with y'all. And so, I read every comment. I try to respond to every comment. And I just enjoy the interaction. I've met a lot of people through YouTube personally, like the Bearded Carpenter. Funny thing is, we live about an hour apart, but I drove the other side of Little Rock to see him somewhere where he was going to be. And I've been to his house, took him some Christmas gifts, and we've gone and ate lunch. I really enjoy Paul and really enjoy his videos. And there's a lot of people on here. It's the same way. I've met them over the years. One of these days, I'm going to make my way out to Utah and meet Uncle Jim. I just enjoy the interaction with y'all. And so I enjoy lives because you can ask me questions and I can answer them, and we can have a lot more interaction that way. And I really enjoy it. Karen Maggard, first time to watch you. My husband, Randy, subscribed for me. He watches you. Have enjoyed this. Thanks, Karen. I really miss you guys. One of these days, I'll get back up there toward Pryor and see y'all, even if I have to go up there and stir your pastor up someday. He and I have been talking once all the Corona stuff kind of blows over. Derek wants me to come up, me and Missy to come up and have a supper with them some evening. So we're going to do that, and maybe we'll come up early and visit with y'all some. I'd like to see Randy. He likes Savage. Well, I tell you, I know what you're doing. You're poking the bear. You're trying to get me stirred up right here at the end and go on another Savage rant. But I think the case is settled. If you like working on guns, buy Savage. You like shooting, buy Tika. Yeah. Hey, thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I really enjoy our time like this. Sometime in the month of May, I will do another live chat, and I really enjoy it. And I'll try to give you more notice next time. It's just I never really know. I don't have good internet at my house. So I have to come into town to the church office to have decent internet to pull this off. So it's one of them things I need to just schedule. And I'll try to give you more notice, maybe a day or two's notice next time we do it, because the next day I always get a bunch of people, hey, you didn't tell me, I didn't know, or I would have watched. So I'll try to give you maybe a day's notice, and we'll try to do it sometime in the month of May. I'll have another live chat, and I'll try to think up remember another good story to tell you. This one's kind of bear hunting stories. And then it turned into chicken stories, and then who knows what. So thank you guys for watching. I'm going to end the stream. Y'all be safe. Don't catch the Rona. If you find somebody, get you a black market haircut like me, I mean, man, look at that. That's pretty good. Kind of got preacher hair now. I was looking a little bit like a Jesus freak earlier. So thank you guys for watching. See y'all next time.